This is such an interesting meeting tonight. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you for your patience. We'll start the meeting with a salute to the flag. Please join me in the allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, roll call on the school committee side, please.
Ms. Chung? Mr. Rossi? Here. Ms. Doherty? Here. Ms. Saleh? Ms. Martin? Ms. Thompson? Here. Mayor Childs? Here. 4 present, 3 absent.
Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome all of you, families, parents, students, staff, to the meeting that's called, this is a special meeting, it's called by the school committee side. And I'm also grateful that my colleagues on the council side are attending the meeting here as well. Let me introduce them to you real quick. From my utmost right to the left, Councillor Visna Nguyen, Vice Mayor Eric Gitchier, Councillor Dan Rook, Councillor Kim Scott, Councillor Rita Mosier, Councillor John Leahy, and joining us also as school committee-elect Fred Barr, who is joining us here as well. The purpose of the meeting here is to talk about the mold concern at the school as a big concern for all of us here. And we'll start. I know that we have 2 registered speakers. At this point, I'd like to ask the secretary to please call upon the 2 registered speakers to speak. And after that, I will have the commissioner to address this issue to start off the meeting. Madam Secretary.
Ms. Carrie Marshall?
Alyssa's actually going to go first. Is that okay?
Sure.
Just going to wait for her. She's pulling up some photos for us. Can you guys hear me? All right, well, my name is Alyssa Landsteiner, and this is Carrie Marshall. We're here tonight to speak as representatives for the Pawtuckaville staff. So we sat together and wrote this as staff, okay? Here tonight, you're gonna see some pictures of our school. These pictures include mold, water stains, paint chipping and falling, condensation that has made our floors wet and ruined furniture and belongings. We hope this can give you a visual as what staff and children are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. This school year started out moldy. We had to shut down our school. There was mold on carpets, walls, floors, and furniture. As teachers, we just hit a breaking point, and we decided that we needed to speak up and hopefully be heard this time. Mold and condensation are the visible symptoms we can see, but there are many problems behind the scenes. This isn't the first time it's happened, and I don't think it will be the last unless changes are made. In fact, just last week, ServPro was in the building because they found mold under ceiling tiles in a few areas. We have repeatedly asked for people to go into ceilings before with no avail. And I find it hard to imagine that this is the only place that mold still exists at this point. Over the last few weeks, many people have come into our rooms testing air, looking at structural issues and testing temperatures. Some day kids need coats, and other days they're in tank tops, depending on where they are in the building. Floors can be wet from condensation, and blowers have been blowing out air at 130 degrees at times. This is not appropriate or safe for children. Staff has to go in and turn on and off their blowers because they are blowing out freezing cold air or very hot air. Windows are open some days because it's stifling, and the room is still 83 degrees, much like right now. Some rooms have fans to help circulate air from other places. Our principal and administration has to go around in the morning turning on heaters, turning off blowers, mopping floors, and installing fans. All this is taking time away from children. Staff and students alike are experiencing respiratory symptoms, such as coughing, headaches, and sinus pressure, and even more. Again, not appropriate for children. Just today, we received a report through email. The report was dated December 5th. We just got it today, a week later. It said that a combination of cyber attacks last spring and conditions this summer are the causes of these issues. These issues have been around for 15, 20 years. I've been here 21, and I don't ever remember a time it not being an issue. We need this fixed for our children. And Carrie's going to take over from here.
Over the past week, we've seen AC units disappear while we were at an assembly. Filters have been changed out in the classrooms. Moss has been power washed off the side of the gym and the awnings. Birds' nests have been cleared from outside, and trees have been trimmed. We also saw a street sweeper come across today. We're wondering what was happening, but it's now clear that the report came out last week and things are finally starting to get done. While that all seems great, it isn't helping our classrooms, and we aren't being told what is happening or the why behind it. In fact, when we came in today, some rooms were sweltering and needed the windows open, much like in here right now, and others were freezing. As teachers, this is extremely frustrating. We've been describing these problems for years to go unnoticed, and no one listened to us. We aren't allowed to put in facilities tickets as teachers through something called School Dude, which we're just learning about. So we have no control over what happens when we make a complaint or point out something. Our custodial team is amazing and can put in a ticket, but then what? It seems to go into the abyss. Now when we're speaking up and demanding answers, things are finally being done. But why does it take things coming down to this for tickets to even be looked at? And if this is happening to us in our buildings, how are the other school buildings throughout the city doing? What it boils down to, no pun intended, is our buildings are not maintained the way that they should be, and there's never a clear answer of who's in charge of what. The buildings are built, our amazing custodial staff cleans them, but all the heating, AC, and structural issues are never maintained or checked. We complain and are told it's just happening everywhere and it's not just us, but that doesn't make things better. It actually sounds a little worse if you think about it. Or better yet, we're told that the parts are on order. In fact, in the report we received today, it lists no specific dates or what to expect, but wrote that rooftop exhaust vents were ordered online. The teachers would like a status update. We want to know what is being worked on, what parts are being ordered, how long that will take, and what they will fix. We also want to know the status of the rooftop chiller, because while it's December now, spring is right around the corner and the temperature will be rising. When this happens historically, we see a plethora of issues, including mold. Communication is key, and it seems there's a breakdown somewhere. It's time for action and for us to know a timeline of when things are happening. For example, we were told that a new chiller needs to be ordered because there are 2 broken chillers on our roof. However, these haven't been ordered yet, and from what we've been told, they're actually on back order. Today, we need to know what parts are on order and when we can expect them in. We also want to know which units are fixed and which are not fixed. We'd like to know which rooms should be adjusting their heat when we come in each day and which should not. June is right around the corner, and we worry about our school conditions and what the summer will look like and what will grow during the summer. We'd also like to know what the plan is for maintaining our building moving forward. Where is the money being budgeted and allocated for maintenance? Will we be right back to the same spot we're in now a few years down the road? All these things need to be considered and planned out. We'd like a timeline and a plan moving on. Lastly, I want to end by saying that I was at a professional development a few weeks ago, and I was sitting and talking to other colleagues across the district. When they heard about Pawtucketville, it became clear that these issues are not just us, but they're just about every single school. The amount of teachers telling us that they have buckets on children's desks for leaks, dead rodents in their rooms, and the same temperature issues is astounding. These are conditions that teachers are accepting as typical in Lowell, but enough is enough. Our students don't deserve this. It's not conducive to learning, and it does not make for a warm, inviting community. If you want our students to learn to the best of their ability, they need to be in a facility that supports that, and our buildings right now do not. As teachers, we come in and day out, and we work in conditions that are subpar. We complain to those above us, and then we move on because we're doing this for the students. We turn on a space heater so we can get through the day. We wipe away the mold and the condensation so the students can work at their desks. We throw away books, rugs, and furniture and replace them on our own because they're moldy and disgusting. We buy things with our own money, and we do this all on our own time. And we have for years and years. And it's not fair. The district has gotten used to teachers just picking up the pieces, and as teachers, we will always do the right thing and support our students, but we want it to be known that it's not acceptable. The kids don't deserve this, and it's time for a change. Thank you.
Thank you to both speakers and for presentation as well. Before I open up the floor to the counselors and the school committee members, I'd like to acknowledge the professionals who are here from the city side and the city manager's office. I'd like to introduce Sean Machado, assistant city manager, Paul St-Cyr, the DPW commissioner. We have Lisa Golden in the health, and also Catherine Moses that deals with everything that's energy, and also Rick Underwood from the facility side as well. At this point, I'd like to call Mr. Paul St-Cyr, who is from the DPW, the commissioner. Going to speak a little bit about some of the projects that have been going on, some of the challenges at the school, as well as the school district-wide as well. Mr. St-Cyr, I believe everyone in this room knows you, your background from the school side and now with the DPW. But could you briefly introduce yourself and how long have you been on the job as DPW Commissioner?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Chow, and thanks for everyone being here tonight. Certainly, it's an issue that's near and dear to all of our hearts. I come from a family of teachers and principals, and I understand what that's like being in a school. I've got children of my own, and it's a huge concern. It's something that I certainly will lose sleep over, thinking about how this part works. I came to the DPW about a year ago now, but prior to that, I was with the schools working with Rick Underwood for a long time, and so many faces that I see here are very familiar. I spent a lot of time in the schools, and I think that was an advantage for me coming into the role as a DPW commissioner, because I got to see the everyday goings-on of what happens and what people have to deal with, right in their classrooms and so on. There's no two ways about it. We are standing in a place at the moment where we have the availability of some funds to be able to attack the problems that have plagued a lot of the buildings for a very long time. I don't think that was necessarily always the case, that they had that opportunity to address some of these issues. But just like owning a home, I think it's something that over time has built up. And we're kind of at that breaking point in many locations. I don't think the speaker was off base with saying that there are issues going on in other places. We're right now in the middle of replacing the boilers at the Riley School. They were just commissioned today, coming online, and that's heading in the right direction. That's a project we would have rather done during the summer, but it's something that overall we're waiting for parts. It's typical, as you look at lead times on things, it's going on for a very long time. Some of it gets brought upon us from boilers that might just go down, that we've had for some time. We replaced a boiler at the Pine School this year, at the very beginning of the year. Just in the last week, we started having issues with the second boiler there, which is its redundant boiler. It's there for a purpose. In the case of a catastrophic failure, the second boiler comes up. Coming back to the Pawtucketville, and many of the staff have shared, and Rick has been with the school department for a very long time, that this has been an issue that's gone on since around the time of that renovation of 2001 or so. That periodically there have been these outcroppings of mold. It seems, when I was even on the school side for 3 summers ago, just as we were coming into the back to school season, we ended up with a mold bloom. So I'm at least familiar with it and some of the challenges we've had to deal with here. As far as the way we've tried to attack this, in particular here at the Pawtucket, from the time that I came on, we had many different vendors who would come in and made repairs, getting up to a point where from November to around April, I think there were 42 different occasions when we had mechanical contractors here in the school addressing some of the issues. In April, we had the cyber event for the city, and with that, one of the, the catastrophes that happened was our control system was taken out. The server that it sat on, it was an aged control system to begin with, but the last thing we needed at that point was to have it taken out from under us. For those of you here who know what they are, it's like having your glasses or not having your glasses. It's like having the thermostat that operates the mechanicals in your house to turn them on and off on a regular basis and keep it in a comfortable climate. With that, that took out controls to every city building and school building. So in a very short period of time, from the time we discovered that they were not going to be able to be recovered, which was about mid-July, we had to develop a scope, go out, solicit, and get the contracts in place for all of these buildings. We knew we were really up against the gun here for getting this done as we were approaching heating season. But it really is the first part that we had to do to get the buildings stood back up. It's, there's no point of trying to run all of these mechanicals manually. So we needed to have that part in place. So I'm glad to say, and it was, it was coming right down to the gun that as of Thursday of last week, the last of all of the schools had the controls, the brains of the unit basically installed within all of the school buildings and the city buildings. With the control being offline, it makes it more difficult to be able to deal with the mechanical issues because some of them can be caused by the control and some could be caused by a true mechanical failure. So as phase 2 of moving forward with this, is just we've been attacking, is coming back in. Now that we can see what's going on within the school, we're attending to the mechanical issues again. And so piece by piece, those things are coming back online. So I think we'll see some dramatic improvements over the course of these next couple of months as they're able to go, at this point now, room to room to room, to be able to attend to the issues that we're having there. That's where we're at as of today. Are there delays in getting materials? Certainly, we see that everywhere. We have great opportunities, though, between ESSER monies and ARPA monies. There's an IVAQ grant that we're looking at for, several $million that could be seen probably by the end of this month as long as all of this comes together, and that's through DESE. So I do think we're heading in the right direction. I've seen some remarkable changes already coming together here. A few weeks ago, the system was not in place here. It's been being worked on and added. We've gone after several motors in univents within classrooms. That was it a control issue or not? Now we're able to see that and move forward. So I think we're heading on the right direction there. Some of the other things that have been going on from the school department side, as many people know, as we came into this, the beginning of this school year, we came into another mold bloom that happened mostly in the back hallway, which is the original part of the school. There was remediation that was taking place with ServPro. Looked in every kind of direction to see what places we could, how we could stand those sections of the buildings back up. The custodians did an unbelievable job with lending a hand and cleaning areas. Besides the fact that ServPro was in. We did find, and we have popped tiles and looked in different places. We did find a place that we had ServPro in for again last week and have put that room back together as well. That's at this point where we're at as far as, within this school. Like I said, I think as we look forward to some of the mechanicals that are on order, one for here, a valve that handles this air handle that's in this the cafeteria is on order. We're hoping to see it in about the next week and a half at this point. Once it's here, the contractor is already set up to come back out and move on to that. So I think people are going to see incremental improvements on a week-to-week basis. Even with everything going on at the school, it's easy to lose sight of things that are happening in other schools. Last week alone, our controls company, besides being here, was in 9 other schools. a lot of that work happens in the background. It's not as obvious for people to see it because it's, they're back in a boiler room, they're not necessarily out in the building, or they're doing things on the network and so on. So I think we are moving in the right direction. The administration and the school department has been unbelievably supportive for us with being able to move forward. We've made, I think, some strategic moves as far as replacing all of the exhaust fans at all of the schools, not just here at the Pawtucketville. We used ARPA money to replace the univents that were original to Robinson School over the course of this past summer. That was over $1 million for that project alone. The exhaust fans was over $1 million. As we look forward, I think, it's going to take a lot of hard work and people pulling in the right direction, but that's where we're at.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that report. If you could just state it, I'm sure many of the
Be happy to.
counselors and school committee members have more questions. I
Sure.
don't have you to come up and back and forth
Sure.
the whole time. Before I call on the elected officials, though, I'd like to ask Mr. Superintendent if you have anything else to add to the report or some of the experience with the teachers as well as other schools.
I can't, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and city councillors and school committee members who are here. I can't get into the science and my expertise in mold because I don't have any. I can give you a little bit of context, if I may. And the first element of context I want to impress on you is the sincerity and the competence of the city officials we're working with. So the gentleman who just spoke, Paul St. Cyr, used to work on the city side, is incredibly visionary and far-thinking, far-reaching, and incredibly hard-working, and is doing what we need to do to address the issues in our schools. In my previous role of Chief Schools Officer, I was one of the people who get the call at 5 o'clock in the morning when there was a pipe burst at a school and there was a flood. In January, when you had those freezing weekends, I knew that if it was a really freezing weekend in January, I could tell by Sunday night, I'm going to get the early call tomorrow morning. That has significantly diminished in the short time that Paul St. Cyr has been in his role. But we're talking about a backlog of issues that do go back many years. And there were times in Lowell when MSBA funds were not sought or applied for when they were available, or when we had our budget issues and didn't follow through or didn't have the right staff and so forth. People like Paul St. Cyr and the city administration, I believe now, are competent and are addressing those issues. And we have to have faith that they will get there, and I certainly do. But the reason I'm giving this context is there is an issue that we're here about tonight, and we've got a concern about mold at the Pawtucketville School. We have to get back to talking about that, but I want to have it in context. Part of the context about the mold issue, if you couldn't pick, in the age of social media, misinformation, disinformation, and all the rest, you couldn't pick a better topic to get everybody riled up. To convince people that the school is not safe, they're not doing enough to clear the issue, and so on. We have talked with the health department, we've talked with mold experts, we have regular testing, and I, for one, won't put my name to having students and staff in a school that's not safe for you to be there. But I'm not making that judgment based on, it doesn't bother me. I'm making that judgment based on talking with experts and officials. When I talked about the mold issue being a difficult one, there's mold in all of our basements in our houses. If you're outside on a summer's day and it's really muggy and you see those mushrooms growing up in your lawn, there's mold outside in your lawn. That doesn't excuse that there have been issues and concerns at the Pawtuckaville School for about 2 decades that do need to be addressed. They do need to be addressed, and I think that's why we're here tonight. But I want us to, and I'm urging us to keep it in context. Mr. Mayor.
Just inform that there was, this looks like a town hall, but we're carrying the rules of the meeting, just like in the chamber. And I was just told that there's a person here, as a parent, who would like to speak, but she didn't get to register on time. There's something in email communication. So at that time, I would like her to speak, but I need a motion from school committee member by Ms. Thompson, second by Ms. Doherty, to have one of the parents in the audience to come to speak. If you could come to the podium.
Good evening. My name's Natalia Labby. I'm a parent of a second grader, and I'm a parent representative at the Pawtuckaville School Site Council. On behalf of the parents and guardians of Pawtuckaville students, I thank you for the opportunity to express all our concerns and frankly our disappointments regarding the yet-to-be-remedied mold issue. When viewing information regarding mold via the government department website, the EPA, I found several important statements that I'd like to share with you. Molds have the potential to cause health problems. Molds produce allergens and irritants. Inhaling or touching mold spores may cause allergic reactions in sensitive individuals. Also, the Rhode Island Department of Health states exposure to a large number of mold spores, as happening here in the school, may cause allergic symptoms such as watery eyes, runny nose, sneezing, itching, coughing, wheezing, difficulty breathing, headaches, and fatigue. Repeated exposure to this can increase a person's sensitivity, causing more severe allergic reactions. These problems are worse indoors, where mold causes indoor air quality problems. Certain molds can produce toxins. Exposure to these toxins can be more serious and cause more illness. People who live or work in buildings that are exposed to moisture and not adequately ventilated are more at risk of illness caused by mold. Populations at risk especially include infants, children, elderly people, immunocompromised patients, and people with existing respiratory conditions such as allergies and asthma. This is a school. Its main clientele are children. One of the specifically identified sensitive, susceptible groups for mold's negative impacts, not to mention the dedicated staff who vary in age and potentially have respiratory concerns as well. The fact that this issue has gone uncorrected for as long as it has, as the teachers have shared, is appalling. And with the news articles, meetings, information coming forth, the parents and guardians are here with the expectation of accountability. On file with the Massachusetts Department of Health is a comprehensive investigation of water damage mold at Pawtuckaville from 2018, and if anybody is interested, I have a copy of it right here. This was 5 years ago, and yet we have the same discussion here again. Parents are here to say enough is enough. We would like immediate action and to know what and when and where and how this is being taken care of. We also know how, once this is addressed, we'd like to know how it will be maintained and monitored so that we never have this discussion or issue again. On a side note, in my previous career, I did REO mold remediation, and I know the severity of it. I know painting over it, cleaning it, unless you fix the proper ventilation, there is absolutely not a chance of completely getting rid of it. I do also have a few questions. Who is the main contact person to reach out for with concerns? Who's overseeing the installation and the required parts? Who will maintain the systems once they're corrected? What is the current status of the upgrades? When were the orders put in? When are they due to arrive? When will the installation occur? As the current focus is on heating Given the reason, what are the proactive measures being taken to address cooling? Who will oversee that? And how will Pawtuckaville community be kept informed over the progress? In addition, we have a few other questions from parents with similar concerns. Has the air quality testing been continuing weekly, or has it been changed to monthly? Have any medical specialists been consulted regarding that, regarding what determines air quality and whether the school environment is safe? And that's all I got for you tonight. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your time. I apologize. My address is 14 Aegean Lane, Lowell, Mass. 01854.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for speaking. We do have a lot of professionals here in the room to make sure that we cover all the bases, including Lisa Golden from the Health Department, and also Director of Facility in the school, Ricky Underwood. Mr. Underwood, would you like to say a few things before I open the floor to the elected officials?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. So I've been in this role for 8 years now, and I know this mold issue's been going on here and concerns with the building for much longer than that. But you're not usually on the defensive, but I guess I get quite defensive to hear that the school department or we're not doing anything. 2 years ago was my first understanding of the mold here, and it was quite heavy. We took immediate action. We had ServPro here. Since then, I've been here weekly, if not more, visiting rooms, checking on things. We've had ServPro. We've put a great amount of pressure on the city to get this building up and running the way it's supposed to be. And, I don't think anybody in this room understands why it's happening, but for as long as I can remember, many of our school buildings have not running to their optimal level. Ventilation, heating, et cetera, until we get the building running exactly the way it's supposed to be with the controls, with the HVAC units, the HEA units on the roof. We won't know if we've solved the problem, but to sit and say that we haven't taken any action is not fair to the people that have been here every day, cleaning the buildings, checking on things, making sure that we're getting air quality testing. When the air quality testing was asked to be done, the air quality testing company, EFI Global, said, we don't need to do 40 rooms. We never do that. It's crazy to do that. And this is exact words of it's not needed. The school department said, no, we want to do all the spaces. We're doing far more than any air quality testing that, in his opinion, that they've done. We've also put pressure on the city to make sure we're getting a building forensics company in here, and we followed through with them to make sure that that's happening. We toured the building last week. We don't have answers for you yet. But we're not letting, and I've said that before, we're not letting it go to waste. So UTL members here, teachers here, parents here, you can feel confident we're going to get answers. And if we don't get answers, we're going to get the building running the way it's supposed to be, the way it's designed. And we may never have somebody that comes in and says, that's the problem. The gentleman that was here had 40 years of experience in building operations and construction. He toured the building, looked outside, we climbed on the building, we were in the basement. There was nothing that he said, that's our problem, which is, I won't say concerning, but typically when you have an issue like this, there's a source of moisture. There's a source there's a roof leak. So we know we've had roof leaks here in the past. We're making plans to put a new roof in the building. We are making every effort to get this done. We're not going to stop. So all I wanted to say is I just didn't think it was fair to say we're not taking any action or we're not paying attention. We're here tonight because we're paying attention. We were here a month ago and met all the staff upstairs in the library and took all the same questions. We're here to get answers for you. So that's all I want to say. I just don't think it's fair to say that we're not doing everything we can, at least on the school department side. The city side is doing what they're going to do, and it's our job to make sure that we make them continue to follow through on their promises to get this done. But the school department is doing everything. That the staff in this school is doing everything we possibly can. So that's all I really have to say. I'm happy to answer any questions on that, but rest assured, we're doing everything possible to find solutions to this building and to get the building running exactly the way it was designed and exactly the way it should be running. And then we probably won't have any more problems. If we have the ventilation running like we have, the heating running like it's supposed to be, roof leaks stopped. I have great confidence that we won't have mold in the building, we won't have any issues in the building, but we're not at that point yet. But we're not doing nothing. Sorry, go ahead.
At this point, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're opening to the public, answer questions back and forth.
I know, I guess I went rogue, I
Yeah,
apologize.
we're not allowed to do that. We'll wait. I'm going to open up to the
All right.
elected officials first. And to the elected officials, we do have
Thanks a lot, I
Paul
appreciate
Sings
your
here,
time.
and also the health department to answer questions too. So I'm going to start with the school committee. And at the end, if we have time, if it's the wish of the body, both bodies, to take questions from public, I will be happy to entertain that. We'll start with the school committee member, Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. First of all, thank you all for being here tonight. The reason we're here tonight, and I'm really proud of my colleagues on both city and school side, is because I made a motion to stop kicking the can down the road and to have this addressed. So I appreciate the commitment that you all have. And I want to say, as a former teacher, I know what it's like to walk into a building, but I don't know what it's like to walk into a building and not know what my room will look like or what the building temperature will be like. I can say in the 45-ish minutes that I've been here, I felt like I've been to both Barbados and Quebec. And that in itself is alarming. What I will say is my original motion was about making sure that we were having regular testing in this building, and the additional portion of that was that there was supposed to be transparency for the public to know what was going on. Unfortunately, and even up until today, from people that have reached out to me, that has still not happened. That is problematic, because you deserve to know what's happening. I deserve to know what's happening because I made the motion to know what is happening, and quite frankly, it's frustrating for me to be sitting in this seat, and as you know, I'm walking out of this seat in a few weeks. It is very frustrating to know that I don't know what is happening. What I will say is this. You know, we can go back and forth and people can say, I didn't, I wanted to, I meant to, we've worked hard, and I'm not denying hard work whatsoever, but what I will say is this can has been kicked down the road for many, many years, and we have to stop. What I'm super proud of is that my colleagues on the city side came today to say, we're gonna stop kicking the can down the road. We're making a commitment that we're going to figure it out now. Why? Because we have money that we will never probably ever have again, and that's on both sides. And so we need to figure out how to fix all of these issues that are in the school. My proposed suggestion, and again, I am one person, but my proposed suggestion is a centralized facilities department, and I've said this multiple times, and that's for efficiency and transparency purposes. I think that several things need to happen in considering this. There needs to be a hiring expertise audit. Who do we need? What expertise do they have? Each of these schools has very different needs based on location, based on sizing, all of those things, right? So those things need to happen. Who do we need? What expertise do we have, and what do we not have? And let's be honest about it instead of trying to do work that potentially we just don't have the skill set quite to do. There needs to be an understanding, and in this centralized department, I think that there should be access for everyone to literally see what is happening. And so by that I mean having something called maybe the Next Up program. So schools know we're next up for changes, we're next up for updates or upgrades. So you're not wondering when the heck it's going to happen for you. You can look on this particular dashboard and say, I know that our school is next up. Maybe we're next up for boilers now, and maybe in the summer, spring, we're next up for our roof to be fixed or what have you. I'm not sure if you guys saw the report that there are over 300 roofing issues in this district. And so when I saw that, I was shocked. I'm sure many have been addressed to where I'm talking about it now, but when that was issued, there were 300 tickets that had been placed for roofing. The last thing I will say is in that centralized department, I think that there also needs to be training for custodians. Not that custodians are not doing a great job, but guess what? They don't know what they don't know. And if there's new things that are happening, why not make sure that they have all the things that they have to be successful as well? There needs to be accessibility. There needs to be known when parts are issued, parts are ordered, when they're back ordered, when expected delivery dates are happening, when there are purchase orders needed, when there are RFPs that need to go out. I think the problem is we're having too many people doing little parts and there's not communication happening. So in this dashboard, if created, you would be able to, you as the public, as well as cities and state side would be able to see that. Now, maybe you want to see all the bells and whistles because you don't really care to see all the bells and whistles. You just really want to know when stuff is being fixed. But again, you would have access to that. So I just want to, again, thank you guys for all that. Thank you for allowing for me to bring this issue and continue to speak for the things that you guys have brought to me that are important to you. Thank you.
Any school committee members would like to speak? Mr. Rossi or Ms. Doherty? No, we can go from just down the line. It's fine. You can go, Ms. Doherty.
Thank you. I'm just going to be really brief. What I'm hearing is, and I believe that we are making great efforts. I have seen in my 30 years in living in Lowell that we are working more collaboratively and more focused on building maintenance than I've ever seen before. And it helps, as has been mentioned, that we have some federal money to do that. We've got some funding to do it. What I'm hearing is there's a disconnect. It's not enough to say, believe we're doing it, right? We want to know what's actually being done. What's the timeline? What are the steps? What are the action items? What's been ordered? When's it going to come? What's got to happen next? And I think that if we could just up that ante with the communication, I think people would feel a lot more comfortable. To Ms. Thompson's point about centralized facilities, I'm not against looking at that. I certainly think that there's a lot of benefits from that. But for today, for now, I think the focus needs to be in improving the communication, improving the transparency so that people in the schools, whether it's your children or your staff, understand what's happening, what's being done to make sure that we get to the bottom of this issue. And I have to admit, I am still concerned to think we really don't know what the root cause is. And that is really the crux of it. We need to figure that out, right? But we've got to follow these other steps first. So while I'm not pointing fingers that anybody's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, I recognize we've got a lot of catch up to do. I believe we are working to do that, but I think we've got to also do that next step of communicating to our people what we are doing, to all of us, so that we can actually see it. Thank you.
Mr. Rossi?
Sorry. I would just like to echo what my colleagues are saying, that there is definitely a disconnect. Just in the short time that I heard administration speak of what was going on for facilities, I heard that it's a controls issue with the cyber attack, and some are mechanical, and then it's the temperature, and then there's a roof concern. So there is a disconnect. We need to figure out what's affected from the cyber attack, what is just mechanical, and so forth. Maybe even get a history on this building, because I remember having ServPro in my house after a major flood. When was that flood? When did it happen? When was there roof damage? Can we get a maintenance report on when all of this happened so that we can go back to the core of it and have that transparency and efficiency so that we can service this building, especially where it is essentially sick and people are getting sick efficiently in the way that staff and students deserve. Thank you.
Any member on the council have any comments or question? Councilor Kitchia?
We're going down the line. Isn't it wonderful to be able to breathe a little bit? You couldn't have had this meeting at a more appropriate part of this school, because when I walked through the door, it was 135 degrees. And if I was a student or a teacher and had to spend more than the time that I just did, I think I would have died. Honest to God, it was extremely hot and very uncomfortable, and you can't learn in those conditions. And I'm not saying as well that we're not doing our part. I think we're all frustrated because we don't know to pinpoint and say, that's the problem, let's fix that. It's a multitude of a little bit of a lot of things. And I had the opportunity to talk to a parent while I was sitting here, and the parent has a child in the 3rd grade. Now, I don't have any children here, and I want to just say thank you very much. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and you are the squeaky wheel, and I'm so very proud of you because that's what democracy is all about. Everybody's here listening. We're all going to work together as a team and try to correct the best we can this situation, but I'm grateful to each and every one of you for being here tonight. But the parent that I spoke to has a child in the 3rd grade that is extremely ill all the time from the mold, and not just the parent's child, but quite a few in the class as well. That's not the way to conduct business of learning. You're not going to learn if you come into school and you're sick and your parents are worrying, do I send my child to school today or is he going to come home and be sick or whatever? That's no way to live. But we are addressing it because you stepped up to the plate. So I'm very, very proud of you. We'll do the best we can. The parent also said to me that when it's winter, we don't really have the problem here because it's cool weather, but when it's moist, that's when you have that problem. And another problem is in the summer when there's nobody here to monitor the temperature and stuff, then the mold develops and the rain comes in, and we do have to find a solution. I know that our people are trying, but we're going to try very hard to monitor this. And I wish before we leave, there's a lady, the last lady that spoke, she had a lot of very interesting questions. I would like them answered. I'm very curious to hear the answer to what you said. That's amazing. So thank you very much. And I think that should be the last order of business to finally answer your question. Keep the people, the parents involved as to where are we with this. I mean, the uncertainty is not anything I want to look forward to. I want to know. Curious minds, and these are parents, these are teachers, this is their profession. I wouldn't want to sit in a place all day long and either be freezing or extremely hot. So thank you very much, because we wouldn't know this if you didn't tell us, so thank you very much.
Sorry, Eric. Eric's going to have to wait a few more minutes to get the microphone. So I was on the school committee, and when I ran for the school committee, part of the reasoning was because my children were at the Pine Art School for K through 8, and they had ceiling tiles falling down on them in the school, and they were complaining about the heat every day. And when I got on the school committee in 2011, we did a lot of work, but it was always a fight with the city because there has been a lack of funds through the years, obviously. In 2014, we did do a comprehensive facilities master plan, like an overview of everything that had short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. I don't know if that's still what we're working off of right now from back then. I don't know how we decide the timeline and what gets fixed next right now at this point. I do think we probably could meet more often as subcommittees, facility subcommittees, to go over the work order reports to make sure that the work is happening. I think that is fallen a little bit to the wayside, I must say, like through the years. I'd also agree that there were a few years that we didn't apply for MSBA matching funds, which was an absolute shame, honestly. I mean, there was no reason for it. We, as a city council, recognize that this needs to happen, that the school buildings need to be repaired. And I think we've made that choice, that we're definitely all on board with that. I think that would be all that I would add right now. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight. I being the district councilor in Pawtuckaville, along with the three at-large councilors, and joined also by other colleagues on the council, I think it shows the renewed partnership that has probably been lacking a lot in the past number of years. I know the collaborations between Paul and Ricky have benefited, and also with Superintendent Skinner and Manager Gold. I think that that relationship, probably between the school side and the city side, has never been stronger. And all the shortcomings that we have had to deal with over the past 2 decades, especially here, and other schools across Lowell, has set us in a difficult spot now. But I do think with the amount of money that we have received coming in, both on the school side and the city side, has been a benefit, and will hopefully continue to be a benefit going forward. The thing that I would ask is that you stay involved, you keep on us, for as many meetings that we need to have going forward. Never hesitate to reach out and to request the progress that was made this evening. I thought, obviously, all 3 speakers, thank you very much, but I thought that Ms. Marshall, I think it was, that spoke second. I thought she had a lot of good questions that deserved to have answers to, and the points that were made were very, very valid. So going forward, please never hesitate to keep on keeping on and to reach out, and we'll get this place back up and running to the optimal level that Ricky has said deserves to be. So thank you very much for being here this evening.
Thank you, and I want to thank the parent who reached out to me, because prior to that I had no knowledge of any of this. So every year we get a budget. It has capital planning. It's put together by city staff, not by the council. So we look at it, we can only make cuts. So nowhere in any city budget did it have any of this in that. Nowhere did it have funds for any of this in that. So when we talk about, we had a commissioner stand up here and tell you he's only been here for a year and he's been working on it, that government's much larger than one person. We could put the blame on one person, but it's much larger than one person. So you have to have a structure in place that says, if this person leaves, then we know what's going on. And when you look at the work order system here, under the current work order system, you have school dude in process. So somebody puts in a work order, and the person who's actually in charge of this building can't even follow it, which is the principal. That's a breakdown right there. So the principal's in charge under ed reform, and he can't even look and see where his work orders are. So how does he know what anyone's doing? When I got the report, because somebody had sent it over to me, that was just done last week. So the December 5th report is right here. So and as you read through it, it's a simple process. Any one of you could have wrote this. It's basically saying that the air conditioning units are broke, there's sinks leaking in the rooms, there's rugs on the floor, and it gives you short-term recommendations, and it says short-term stuff. Well, the long-term stuff is what you need. It already tells you that all the equipment is already over its life expectancy. So what are we going to do as a city? We're going to pour good money into a bad piece of equipment, and we're going to try to fix that. Go to the long-term piece and replace it like we talked about at the city council. Replace it right up front. In our opera funds, I didn't know that any of this was happening. So what happened is each councilor here got $1 million to put into the parks in their area, open space. That money should have been dedicated to the schools. So I'll be filing a motion, and if other councilors want to be put on it, that we remove that $1 million from the parks and we start looking at the schools in our district and get it there. But we got to spend it really quick. That's where it comes in now. But we should remove it from the parks and stop putting it into our schools. And then, you know what, if you can play in a park, there's a rock, you slid into a rock. We did it every day when we were kids. Get over it. But at some point, I didn't know any of this stuff was here until a parent reached out, and then I took a tour. I said, oh my goodness, I do this for a living. There's not one person in here that does this for a living besides Ricky and I, and Paul did it in the past. And when you go over, the dampers are rusted shut, some of them. Some of them are rusted open. Some of them are just the controls. The controls, that's a bunch of BS. And I'll put in a motion, and I'll file the motion asking for the school dudes, any report that was given from this school prior to April on the heating system, and see what we get back. I will guarantee these complaints are longer than from April. Okay, we all got an excuse, April, so override the ones that were working and figure it out until it gets put back together. But these issues, those things don't rust that quick. They're not going to rust from April to today. It just doesn't happen. They can write whatever they want in these reports to satisfy the person who pays them, and we all get it. I hire the engineer, I tell him what to say, he comes back with a great report. Okay, great. I love you too. But it doesn't get anything done. That's why we're kicking the can down the road. 4 HVAC specialists killed you guys. They no longer work for the city. Last year, all 4 resigned. They killed you guys. They didn't even change glycol in these units throughout the whole city. There are major problems with the structure in the city. It starts at HR. It starts at the hiring process. When you hire somebody and you underpay them, you get what you get. And that's what you got. So if you pay somebody a fair wage and they have technology and you go for professional development, they can maintain these things and you put capital plans in place. This council has worked on that. We asked the manager, can you start trying to pay these people a fair wage so we can lure people in? For the first time in many, many years, wastewater finally got somebody down there with a CDL license to apply for a job. For the first time. If you're going to fix something, you have to understand capital planning. We talk about that all the time. This council went and bought all the fire trucks because of poor capital planning, and we had no out. And that's what's happened to this school. It's happened to all the schools. When you look around, all of those tiles are bent up because they couldn't bend down because the metal structure wouldn't allow it. So they settled in, and that's what happens. And when you look at all the units, I was one who came in with the thermometer. And mold is good outside your house. I'll debate that with anybody anytime they want. When it gets in your house, if it's outside air bringing it in, that mold's not as bad as created mold from like a shower. There's 2 different types of mold that go on in homes. There is good mold out there. But usually it's outside your house, and the mold that's created in your house, such as your basements, is created from outside air. So it's not as bad as something that is in a room, like your shower, or that space, or on wood and stuff like that. So if we really, truly want to fix things, we have to go to the long-term planning and make it today's planning and start funding. And I just spoke to the 4 councilors that are next to me, and none of them seemed to push back on taking the $1 million that was put in the outdoor space and bringing it over to the school side and saying, let's just fix this stuff. We can always fix a field later, but I don't know the time crunch because of ARPA and how quickly you can get these things done. But if you can get that done and then go out to bid quick enough, and we have state agencies that are on state contract, even if we pay a little bit more because they're on state contract, pay it and just get it done. And getting the equipment may be the challenge. Those chillers, we knew they were down since I read the report. It said the winter 2023 spring. Why they weren't ordered back then was, and we heard it. People didn't think we had money. Well, that's not your thought. It's a cost. It's a hard cost. You have to pay it. It doesn't matter whether you pay it today or tomorrow. It's going to cost you more tomorrow than it will today, so just do it. And I think that that's the hard part when I look at all of you. I look at the parents, I look at the teachers, I look at the principal, and especially those students. I came in here the other day, and that heat was put on for a purpose. So people, when they walked in here, they would feel what those kids feel, and then you shut it off, and now Ricky's closing the windows because, ooh, I'm cold. What do you think a kid's doing? And if the adult doesn't recognize it, the kid's cold. You go from one room, it was 52 degrees, to another room that was 86. It's just sad to think we don't have people in place who care about people. They care about, oh, well, let's push it off. Oh, we don't know anything. Oh, wait a minute. Eric and the council complained, or the school committee, and I thank you guys for bringing it forward. Complain, so let's fix it. It should never get to that stage. And that's our government. Our government is poor. At anything that is capital planning, we've been poor for as long as 30 years. Look around. We did it with the garbage trucks and the plow trucks. We replaced them all in the same year when Bernie Lynch was here, and that, I think, was like 2008. And it hasn't changed. So if I were you, I'd keep pushing and just keep pushing, and we'll have to find the money. I don't know where it's going to come from, but we should already have these things going out for bid and just figure out the money afterwards and get it replaced. And thank you all for coming out on your Monday night.
Thank you, everyone, for coming here. As Eric stated, I'm going to keep this short. I want to thank the school committee for starting this meeting, because without the school committee establishing the facts that the schools need to be addressed, then really nothing gets done. Something else I'm seeing is that there's 11 elected members sitting here at this table. That's more than half of your elected members in the city of Lowell. So people are actually addressing this. And it's been a long time since the school committee has worked with the council, and the council has worked with the school committee. You know, I know Kim Scott sat on the school committee. She said, hey, what are we doing about this? In the past, we've had short-term plans and long-term plans. Let's get back to that. I heard Stacy Thompson say, let's get a centralized department so everybody understands and let's communicate. So yes, all of that will be taken care of because of this meeting right here. So I just thank everyone at this table for showing up. I thank the superintendent for being here because I thank the assistant city manager for being here. This is not just about the Pawtuckaville Memorial School. This is about all the schools in the city of Lowell. And I think this is a great meeting to go ahead and get things moving forward. So that's all I have to say.
I too like to thank the school committee for bringing this up and call this meeting, and thank all of you who are here tonight. I share your frustration. I came in, like Councillor Mercier said, 90 degree. I was ready to take off not only my jacket but also my sweater as well. I know you agree, and I do agree with you that for learning to take place, staff, teachers, and students need to feel safe and comfortable. That's responsibility of this body, this elected official. And I concur with Superintendent Skinner that this issue and many other issues exist in this school and other schools. It's a backlog that took place many, many years. And I heard my colleague from both sides alluded to the finger pointing who's responsible. It's our responsibility to make sure that our students are safe, to make sure that the teacher can teach. I agree that the lack of communication, and I urge the Commissioner Sincere and Mr. Underwood from the school to work together and share and communicate the status to this school to start with and other schools as the work taking place. And I urge also the administration to continue with MSBA grant. We've been doing that for many years, but still we need to do more of it. And we need to also looking at resource funding, federal and state funding. With regard to federal funding, we have the opportunity, one in a lifetime, using some of those ARPA money to take care of this issue one and for all. I thank you for coming.
Mr. Mayor, could we have the that lady after speak?
On the line that everybody speak. I don't know how Councilor Levy, you must felt free for the guest.
I let the ladies go first, Mr. Mayor. But thank you. I just we'll let a couple people speak. But I want to say thank you for everybody coming out. Again, we all know this isn't a new issue going on. There are a lot of good ideas brought up tonight. We have a lot of good people in charge now, and I think some of the ideas tonight, the open dashboard so people can see what is happening, what's going to happen next, is a good idea. A few years ago, not to put the superintendent on in the spotlight, but let's see how much ESSER funds we have available too. We had a commitment a couple years ago of large sum of money. Let's find out where that is, and combine with the ARPA funds to try to get this stuff done. And it's got to be the control systems, as they said, Mr. Underwood and Mr. St. Cyr, that, we've got to go in an order and we got to get these controls fixed so that equipment can run properly. Equipment that hasn't been replaced in years needs to be replaced again. And it's going to be a sacrifice. We need to take some money. Taxes are going to go up a little bit, and departments need to be reorganized. New department heads need to come in, so we have somebody in charge of streets only. buildings only, things like that. You know, right now we have too many people doing too many jobs. I see Mr. Underwood out all the time. I see Mr. St. Cyr out all the time. But they need help, and we need to put some structure in place to assist them. The assistant city manager, you know, he must get 10 calls a day from myself and probably 10 calls from all my colleagues, and probably hears from the school committee too. So we're on the right track. We appreciate people holding our feet to the fire, and that's what we need to do. But let's make the sacrifices now and get these buildings under control, get things up and running. I appreciate all the work that you've been doing, Mr. Commissioner. You know, there's a lot of stuff that people don't see behind the scenes that you already have started, and this is just one aspect of it. You know, Mr. Underwood can attest that while I was on school committee, we met often at the Sullivan School, and I think you had me out here once looking at the issues for the ceilings. So, you know, we have to find the root cause here and get this project, get these problems under control and get them going. So, again, thank you for holding our feet to the fire and make sure that we get this job done. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Mr. Paul St. Cyr to come to the podium to address the speaker's concern. Time. This is a formal meeting, but like I said in the beginning, it does look and feel like a town meeting, and we do have some time. I'd like to get everybody out here by 8 o'clock. I know everybody's have a busy schedule, have to go to work tomorrow. After Mr. Commissioner speak, if it is the will of the body, the school committee side, if they allow maybe a couple of questions from the public, I will be happy to honor that. While Mr. Commissioner coming up, do you have a motion from the school committee to take a couple more questions from the public? By motion by Mr. Rossi, second by Ms. Thompson. Motion is approved. Mr. St. Cyr, if you could recall some of the concerns. I'm sure the parent who spoke after you did, she expressed really the concern of everybody, including the elected official. I'm not sure if you want her to repeat some of the questions, but if you could address those questions, and then after, I want to take a couple of questions from the audience as well. Ms. Gordon would like to speak as well? I will ask you that. Thank you, Ms. Doherty. Mr. Commissioner?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay, thanks. I always see these as an opportunity to learn and take in people's view from where they sit. I think I get great appreciation for where they sit and some of the trials that they go through on an everyday basis. So many points were brought up tonight, and I'll just go back to a couple of coincidences that have gone on recently. Just last week, I met with Mr. Skinner, and we talked about what would be a good way of being able to, in a concise way, put the word out for where things are at in the school. And we talked about a dashboard, Mr. Skinner. That was something we had created when I was back on the school side and started putting together. So it's something that has been a work in progress. I think we really wanted to get through the point of where we're at and how we'll be able to move forward with the repairs that are going on in the buildings across the district and in the city. I think that would lend itself well for people to get an idea of what's going on there. I think we could also do a better job. I've got to acknowledge, as we've been kind of head down in the row plowing forward, that we can probably do a better job with what those plans are. I know that there's been an awful lot that's been going on in the background, and it's things that people, I'm certain, I said it the other day, we met with the state, came in and walked through the school, and they did their survey here, and we talked about the different ways that we could approach what the problem is to get to what the root cause is here. You were actually at that meeting, and I made the point that day that we're not leaving. It has happened in the past, and I think it's close to 20 years or so that you've been here, that that they've seen these things happen. And the bottom line is we do have to get to the root cause of what's caused the mold in this building. I don't know that that has been done in the past. It seems that it hasn't. I think in this case, we know the primary concern for us is getting all of the mechanicals fixed. As Councilor Gitcher could attest, if the mechanicals aren't working properly, you're just begging for problems that way. So if we give a ripe condition for this to happen in the building, shame on us. So that's certainly our first and paramount concern. Back in September, as the beginning of September, the start of school, and we went through this reoccurrence with the mold bloom, we started going down some of the sides of how do we finally get this resolved here. It just can't be happening again. And so we've engaged a forensic company that's going through kind of piece by piece, from the original plans for what this building was to the addition plans that happened, and then all of the documentation that came along with the contract that we got into with Amoresco and the improvements that they made. They've gone through piece by piece with all of those plans, and they've made some site visits. They're coming back again the end of middle of next week for another site visit. They're taking the information that they received from the state. They take the air quality tests that the schools have been taking, and they'll be coming up with what they believe would be the cause here. But to Mr. Underwood's point, I don't know that it's necessarily going to be just only one issue that's plaguing the school necessarily. It can be a combination of several things that are causing it. So the idea is that we should be eliminating as many of them first, and also try to root out any hidden or less obvious causes that cause us to bloom.
Commissioner, I will take a couple of questions, maybe one on this side, one on this side. Yes, please, go ahead.
My question is, what preventive maintenance schedules are you going to put in place to prevent this from happening again? So once you do fix these set issues, what preventative maintenance are you putting in place? So I could have went without it, but what are you going to put in place to get there? Because if they were put in place in the first hand, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
You're going to wear out your shoes. Thank you. There's no doubt that preventative maintenance is key. Last year was the first year that we actually had a comprehensive preventative maintenance program that went through all of the schools to get boilers up and running and doing all of the things that we should be doing there. It gave us the opportunity that it flushed out some of the other places where we had real mechanical failures and how we were going to go after it. To that end, if you start to look at the kinds of issues that we're having, we're not talking a $200,000 problem or a $500,000 problem. Just to Councilor Gitcher's point, the other night during the council meeting, to replace the number of univents, that's a typical classroom heater that most people are familiar with in the school, would be about $30 million just to begin with. And that's the far extreme end of what the distribution and system is for the building. That doesn't attend to a rooftop unit or a boiler or a VAV or many of the other things. So we are heading in that direction as far as preventative maintenance that did not happen in years past. I mean, right down to whether it's filter changes, maintenance that happens to rooftops and so on. So that is going into place.
Any questions on this side? Yes, please.
You keep mentioning Servpro, like you could buy a Servpro franchise. Curtis, you could buy one. I could buy one. I don't know the first thing about mold. Most of them don't either. They have kids in there working. They come in with these fancy blowers and whatnot. It's just a franchise. They're not experts in anything.
Well, except for the fact that we also get Sorry.
Servpro certifies, right?
Actually, they're certified. Yeah, sorry, I'll let Ricky.
So, Dickie, you're right. Servpro is no different than our professionals cleaners we have. The only difference is it's like the Wizard of Oz. They have a heart. They have certifications. So when we wanted to bring the custodians here and do the cleaning, the first thing we heard is, wait a minute, they're not trained for mold remediation. So what we've done now is we're taking, and I have great faith in our custodians and our capability of cleaning. Used to be one. So what we're in the process of now is we actually have a purchase order in hand to, actually, I'm sorry, we have quotes in hands to buy all the necessary equipment. Servpro really has the equipment that you need. They have the air scrubbers and the negative.
Horse and pony show.
Huh?
It's a horse and pony show.
Well, they are. You're right. But they have the manpower that they can bring in a bunch of people. But again, what they have is they have the certifications and they have the equipment that we don't have. They have air scrubbers and negative air pressure machines and HEPA filter.
Who certifies them? Is it state or is it Servpro?
Listen, I could have you certified in 6 hours in class. But again, they have the proper equipment. The certification is just one part of it. You need air scrubbers, you need negative peripheries, you need commercial size HEPA filters so you're not just blowing this stuff into the next room. So we're in the process of taking over that, so no, we're not paying the big dollars of Servpro. We're going to use that money right here on our own custodians. Again, I think we have a professional team. It is. So we're in the process of that. We're right now getting a list together that's appropriate to make it worthwhile to have the custodians trained.
Right,
So,
yeah. I'm just letting these people know. Servpro, it's more or less a horse and pony. Servpro, you know it too.
but you know what? You can have them here in a minute. You know, the day.
Oh, sure.
2 years ago, this mold, the big mold bloom, happened 5 days before school happened. We didn't have the equipment. We really had no choice but to call them in. They were here with 20 guys, you know, all the right equipment. So those are the instances why they come in.
You're hungry for a buck. You can call Heritage Plumbing. They'll have 10 guys in a project manager.
Again,
I've seen it. It's a franchise.
Sometimes your hands are tied, though. You're not going to put a custodian in a position where they're not trained regardless of what, so.
Right.
One more, Council. You have questions?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a suggestion, I know we had 3 speakers and they all had questions I thought were pretty valid questions as well. Could we, I don't know if I can do it because I know it's a school committee thing, but can we forward their questions or their speeches to Paul and Ricky, and they can collaborate together to answer, hopefully all of them, and then they can report back to the school. Does that make sense?
8 o'clock. I don't know, Mr. Secretary, do you have any additional comments for the questions here? And as Councilor Rook mentioned, anyone else has questions afterward, please feel free to reach out to the superintendent's office as well as to the DPW commission as well. Mr. Paul St. Cyr?
I think.
Somebody else make comment?
I'm sorry.
From you? Ms. Doherty? Okay. That's right.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on what Councilor Rourke said, sorry. I'd like to make a motion that we get those questions answered in a report that comes back to the school committee and the city council, that we get the questions that were, the parent speaker that had all those questions. And if anyone else has other questions, that can go to Mr. Sincere, that we then get a follow-up report so we can start to move forward with getting the communication we need. So that's my motion to get that report. Second.
Motion by Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. Thompson. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. That motion is carried. Do you have a few minutes?
Mr. Monroe, you're getting to work out.
From the health department would like to say a couple words before we close out the meeting. Ms. Gordon, would you like to say anything?
Thank you, Mayor Chow. So I think a couple of the, one of the speakers had a couple of questions about mold. And I just wanted to mention that I know that the mold tests are being done monthly, I believe, right now. And one of the things that when we did meet with the air quality people that came from the state, they did say that they didn't recommend doing mold quality testing. And one of the things with doing mold quality testing is when you look online, there's no normal for mold quality testing. So I'll test, like if I get, if I'm in with mold, like I can test and like I'll test differently, then you'll test, then you'll test, then you'll test. So everybody's going to test, like, react differently to mold. So that was what the speaker said, like, when people test or touch mold, they're going to react to mold differently. And the same thing with what Councilor Gettier said, like, with people are around mold, like, people can be in a house full of mold and, like, not react to mold, and then other people will be in a house of mold and react to mold. So everybody is going to be around mold and react differently. So that's why if you have your, like, a health inspector come and be in your house, they're not going to test your house for mold. There's no normal number of mold spores that's going to be in your house. So people do not test for mold normally, so you're not going to have a normal amount of mold in your house or in a building or anything like that, because people are going to react differently to mold. So there's not going to be a normal amount. So when you see a report and we talk about mold, there's not a normal amount of mold to be seen. So what they do when they test for mold is they test the inside of a building and they test the outside of the building, and that's how they see, like, how much mold there could be, is what's inside and what's outside. And that's what Councilor Gettier is talking about. Like, you'll have a certain amount of mold in your shower because you take a shower and you have mold on the around your shower, and then outside you're going to have certain mold outside, which has all these funky Latin names, and sometimes it gets into your house. So that's what happens. And I do want to tell all of you that as the health director, the children and the elderly are the most vulnerable people, and those are the people as a health director that I really need to take care of. So they are really the highest priority people in the city. Those are the people we have to take care of. And the health department is really into this, and we really do care about them. This is not something that we're going to drop. The Board of Health we meet the first Wednesday of the month, and the Board of Health did talk about this week, and they will talk about this. Mr. Underwood will tell you, they torture him frequently about the boilers and the heat, and he has been great about, he gets alerts on his phone when the boilers don't come on. I think he's tortured about that. And Mr. St. Cyr, I talk to Mr. Machado all the time about things in the building. So they are really into this, so they do care about this. Thank you.
Wrapping up, I'd like to encourage everyone. I know that all of you here are very concerned, and you're representing the other families and the other teachers and staff who couldn't make it tonight as well. But I do encourage you to forward your questions to the superintendent or to your elected official on the school committee side, and per the motion, the superintendent will respond to those questions in a written form to be exhibited, to be distributed publicly. At this point, Mr. Superintendent, could you let the public here know which email address is best to reach you at? I'm going to give you the microphone so you can let them know your email. I'm just trying to save time here.
Thank you. I'm going to answer the mayor's suggestion about that email address, but also the person who spoke and who had questions, I believe, might have had them on paper, and I'll take them tonight if you have them. Thank you. If you have further questions, the email to use is superintendent@lowell.k12.ma.us. So that last part of the address is the same for everybody in the district, at lowell.k12.ma.us, and the first part, superintendent. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. This is probably the best city council. And again, I really appreciate all of you for coming tonight, and all the elected officials on the council side and our school committee. I'd like to thank the principal, Mr. Monroe, and Pawtuckaville for hosting us this evening as well. And the conversation, the problem, it doesn't end tonight. We're going to continue to work very, very hard to make sure that the entire school district are safe for the teachers, for the parents, for the families, for the students, for everyone. Again, thank you to all of you, and thank you to everyone who's watching. I'm not quite sure this is live. I think it's recorded, but it will be on LTC as well. At this point, I need a motion. Yes, I was giving that to you. That's why I was looking at you. Motion to adjourn by Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. De Rossi. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.